Hello, world, and welcome to the Innovation Coaching Podcast. My name is Klaus Russell, and with me I have Iulian Dinu. Julian, tell me how I can help.
Hello, everybody. How you can help? Well, actually, I don't really know how you can help, but usually with people, sometimes you don't know what you need, so therefore you go to a professional in your field. Let's say you wanna do some decoration in your house, and you don't actually know what to decorate and how to design your room or your house, and then you go to the professional. So that's why I'm here. I'm hoping you could. I'm hoping you could guide me to the path, to the right path.
No, I appreciate that a lot. Let's look at the house a bit. Tell me about where the house is right now. What are things looking like right now? And for our audience who doesn't know you, a little bit of context.
Okay, so I'm a, let's say, professional photographer and also videographer for more than 10 years now, and we've been working together for some projects internationally, and we know each other since 2016 December. So I might say we had some let's say experience together for the visual projects that we were in, whether it was photography or videography. And sooner, for the past 2.5 years almost, I'm managing a project which has to do with inspection with drones in the oil and gas sector. It has to do with national security for the energy when it comes to oil and gas. So yeah, I might say I migrated a bit my professional life from the freelance video photography, international and also national, to a more let's say technical oriented domain. So imagine this semi-creative person which also has some experience in editing both photos and videos, extrovert person which now is in a very technical domain with very and I also have to do with a lot of stiff people wearing suits and all sorts of things like that. So I'm somewhere in between. I'm still that crazy creative person who likes to do interesting stuff. Even tomorrow we'll have a project which has to do with cleaning outside of a village. So I'm gathering a team of I don't know how many people, because it was an online event that was announced a few days ago, and it might end up having 5 volunteers showing up for the event, or we might end up with 50 or 100 volunteers joining up for the event. So now I'm in between combining the creative life, personal life, and also professional life, and this very narrow and stiff professional and serious life with the oil and gas. So that's where my house is at the moment, is in between creativeness and flexibility, and you don't know where you might end up in a week, like worldwide wise, and this very strict domain which has to do with national security when it comes to energy sector.
I'm sure most of the people listening won't be able to recognize the national security aspect, or hopefully not, but I'm sure some of them will recognize that somewhere between the creative and the business, and somewhere between the wild and the stiff. You've described it now twice as stiff, and we've talked about this before, on not on the podcast, but in other times. What is it still that motivates you to do that job? Because there's a lot of good stuff, I know.
Yes, it is a lot of good stuff, and the only reason why I keep bringing into conversation the stiff part is because it's something that I'm not very used to, and I'm not used to as a team leader, because I'm a project manager for this particular project. So I'm not very used to having the need to following all these procedures, and also I need to create procedures from scratch, and I have no one to guide me through this step, because there is no one in Romania or outside Romania which is doing exactly what we are doing, in order to get some let's say some input for how we should do it. So there are a lot of things which we did from zero. Actually, we we actually had to invent procedures. We actually had to create programs. We needed to create software from zero. So me and another person from my team, we stood together. We actually created a software that we are using every day now for this project. And this is what keeps me motivated. That it still has this part where you need to be very creative, when you need to find the solutions and to put pieces of the puzzle together. And it gives me the freedom to create as well here. But it gives me the freedom to create within the boundaries of the regulations and the rules and the aviation and the oil and gas system and all that sort of stiffness, let's say.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And thanks for giving that context. So I know you said you don't know what you're looking for, and we're looking at the house, right? But what is, if you're going to show a couple of the rooms that are a bit dirty, what are a couple of things where you're like, this would be nice to change? This would be nice if this was different or easier or possible or just not there.
Well, as I rightfully mentioned a bit earlier, I think I'm very good, and I also like the creative part of the project, where I need to find creative solutions to actual problems, and most of the times we manage to find those solutions. And yeah, it's like it's very nice when you finally end up finding a solution to a problem that nobody knew how to solve. But on the other hand, I'm very bad at creating procedures and having to use that very stiff language when you have to create a document. Imagine that we need to make. I'm working now for a operations manual for our operations, and even though we have a quality department which is taking care of mostly everything, because they are not technical people, they don't know how to, let's say, what the equipment does and how it does it, and they need a lot of input on my side. So now the operations manual is on my desk, and I need to create from zero all that language, and that's very, it's very hard for me to do that. It's something that I'm not very comfortable with doing. I don't know how to do it, but I'm willing to do it because I know that at the end I will get some knowledge, and I will get some skills that will help me probably in the future when I need to do other documents.
Okay, let's look at that for a moment, right? I know I asked for three and you just gave me one, but let's look at that one for a moment. So my first question would be not why do you have the responsibility? I know that, but why do you have to do the work? Is it possible for you to bring in somebody to help you? Like, could you bring in a freelancer to help sit next to you and do it with you? So it's not just you sitting alone, looking at the computer screen going, why, oh, why is this what I'm doing? But doing it in tandem with somebody else?
Well, this is a good question, and one of the skills that I learned while having this job is actually managing and actually giving what's it called, nominating tasks to do to other people, right? So, but this is one of the tasks that I must do, because all the information that we need to compile this document with, I'm the only person that knows all of it. So because I'm, let's say, on the top of the operations and I know every bit of information that needs to go there, I'm the one who needs to compile it. And if, let's say, there are some missing information, I know exactly where to go to get that information to put it there. Instead, if I would give this task to one of my one of the people from my team, they will come all the time back to me to ask me, okay, so how do I do that, and how do I do that, and how do I do that? And yeah, I think it's easier for the sake of the project that I do it, because in terms of time consuming, it will be much less time consuming if I do it, even though I don't feel very comfortable with doing that.
So I get that. No, I'm not questioning that at all. I'm asking, why do you have to do it alone? Why do you have to do it, right? Is it possible for you to, let's say you know a lot of people, right? Let's say you brought in somebody. Let's use me as an example. It'll be tricky because my Romanian is not that good and I don't understand the oil and gas industry. But apart from these small things, let's say that you say you're doing this thing and we schedule daily Zoom calls where we work on it together. And my role, you're doing the work. My role is to ask questions, keep you company, make sure you have digital coffee, say, Julian, take a break and watch some cute cat videos. And in general, then you poke it to me and say, Klaus, does this make sense? Or I have some ideas about terminology or about order of information. And even if I don't know Romanian, even if I don't understand the specifics, I still know quite a lot about ordering information. I know a lot about creating structure documents, that sort of thing. And I'm not alone in this. There are people out there, and some of them you probably know, who could assist you, not do it. I agree that you can't just hand it off to somebody, not somebody on their team, but nobody says you have to sit and do it alone.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not doing it alone. So the whole structure of the operations manual was set by the quality department,
Got it.
and all the let's say the blank spots, the technical blank spots, or the aviation rules that they didn't know how to put it in words there, they passed it on to me because yeah, they don't know all the rules and all the technical capabilities of our equipment and all that. So all I had to do was to formulate all that had to do with the technical aspects, with the equipment, and also with the European aviation laws when it comes to drones. But even though it sounds that it's an easy task, it's a rabbit hole, and it's the hole goes very, very deep, and every let's say every part of the information that we put there, it goes very, very deep, because you have to split in 2, in 4, in 8, in 16, and so on. So it's very, very time consuming and energy consuming. I'm a very, let's say, practical and on the field guy, and I'm not a very office oriented working guy. So that's what I'm lacking. I don't have a very good balance between the field operations and the office work.
Got it. And you're still stuck with this office work.
Yes, I'm very stuck with this office work, and I'm getting stuck more often, because when I finish something, then I need to do a report, then I need to have a meeting for a different client, or I have another meeting for developing a different procedure and so on. But I guess that's the let's say the life of a project manager. Needs to take care of all these aspects, I guess.
Well, it doesn't have to be. That's why my question is, and it's actually a very low key question, is could you, I'm not saying you should, but could you, with your current salary, go out and hire a personal assistant for 10 hours a week? Would that be possible, or would you then be in territory where then you can't pay your rent?
No, that's not possible with my current salary. My current salary for what I'm doing is in any case lower, and I'm hoping for a substantial raise in the foreseeable future, let's say. But yeah, that's out of the question to.
Got it. So that's not an option,
So
right?
I mean, if I would need such a person in the team, and I think I don't know if the company will say no to hiring that person itself. And anyway, we will have another guy who will join the team, but only in July. So until then, yeah, I have to do all this juggling with the office
Okay.
work.
Got it. So there's no easy solution that way. Sometimes there is. What's fun about that work? Is there anything that's fun about it?
I think yes. I think the fun of it is also it has to do with puzzle pieces that I'm in a position where I can get information fast from my team or other teams, because this project, the company is very engaged with this project, and they are willing to allocate resources, human resources, especially when it comes to this. And I'm happy to see that everybody is very open to help when I ask for that. So I also don't want to exaggerate when I do that. So I try to do most of the things as long as I can myself, and then only delegate things that I'm sure I can delegate, or ask people just in case I'm 100% sure that I don't have that information. So maybe maybe on another problem, I mean, not another problem. A problem might be my fear of letting go more and more, probably.
Tell me about that.
Well, I had this at the beginning, when we were starting the project. And imagine at the beginning, we were only 2 people in the project. And now we are 8 plus 13, 21. So I have a team of 21 people behind me. And at the beginning was extremely hard to delegate and to allow other people to do stuff in the project. But now I have no choice because the team is so big, right?
You kind of have
So
to, yeah.
yes, I kind of have to. And I think this is one of my main learnings from this long-term project. Um, Having the ability to have an overview of the project, and let's say learning how and when to delegate. That's something I'm learning right now, and also has to do with this more and more office work that I'm doing. For example, I had to be in the field because, as I mentioned a bit earlier, we have 8 people in the project now, which I have to train from zero to become pilots, drone pilots. And I was supposed to be in the field starting from the beginning of last week. So last Monday, I was supposed to be in the field, and I didn't manage to be even 1 hour in the field because I had to be every day in the office, working for procedures, working for presentations, working for different external clients and preparing demos. Now we might go in Bahrain, we might go in Italy for some demonstrations, and all this needs to be prepared in advance, needs to be discussed with the potential clients, and also on a high level of professionalism. So yeah, it's
So just to recap here, William, that you have 8 people you're currently training, except you haven't started because you're overworked. You
no,
have
no.
to, or
I have. Sorry, I forgot to mention that I already have a person in the team, which is a trainer. So he's every week with these people in the field. Every day he has. I mean, one day he has 3 people. The second day he has another 3, and the third day he has 2 people. 3 plus 3 plus 2 equals 8. But I would like for this process to happen much faster. So if I would be there in the field as well, the training period will be half the time, right?
see, now we're hitting something. Now you said the golden stuff.
Mm.
If I was there, it would be much better.
Yeah, time-wise.
Yes, I have a feeling, I could be wrong here, but I have a feeling that you've got a little bit of entrepreneur sickness. And with entrepreneur sickness, I know this is not the company you built, but you're close enough to it that it might as well have been your own, right? A long part of the way. That usually entrepreneurs tend to do this, not all of them, but most of them. So they start something, whether they're photographers or teachers or make shoes or spaghetti. And they start it, and then at some point, and they do it, and they're the only ones there. They're the boss, and they're the execution, and they're everything contracted. You know that. You've done that. You've been that for quite a few years. Everything is them, and they know everything about the business because there's nobody else to know anything. And then at some point, some of them get to the point where they can hire somebody. They hire a first person, or they bring in a good friend who's working with them, and they pay them some money, and they kind of complement their skills. And then as it slowly grows, they get more people. And the problem is a lot of these more people, especially in the beginning, you tend to hire people who can do several things, right? If you're one person running, let's say you're a photography business, the first person you would hired would be somebody who could both take pictures and do accounting and do marketing and some travel and all this sort of stuff, right? You wouldn't hire somebody and say, your job is to do sound editing on video full time. It's like, no, of course, you'd hire somebody who could do a little bit of everything. So that person would probably be like a little bit like you, but worse at most things. And at some point, you get to be big enough that you start hiring specialists who are better. But most of the time, especially in the beginning of when a company grows, the founders just better than everybody else. They're faster, they're more experienced, they know all the processes. Hell, they made all the decisions, they understand where things come from, they know the clients. Everything is better when the founder does it. But the founder has limited time, so they hire people. And as a founder, it's really, really tempting to think if I did this, it would be better. I've been there. I know this all too well. I was doing 5 people's job when we were working together. But it also meant that whenever I thought, oh, I'll do this so it'll be better. Oh, what if I just take this text? Or what if I do this design? Or what if I run this? Or what if I do that? And whenever you do that as the founder, you become even better. And the others don't get better because you're the one doing it. So the gap gets even larger. And I see it sometimes in really big organizations with really smart people, where there'll be some smart leader who's extremely talented, extremely dedicated. We've both seen this in Saudi Arabia, that some of these leaders are incredibly good and they feel they're surrounded by idiots because they're the ones making all the decisions and they're working like demons and they're all over the place and they have an efficiency level of 400%. What they don't realize is that if they keep doing that, then they'll have 405% next week. But the people around them, they still haven't gotten better. And in the beginning, delegation is hard, whether it's delegating video production or it's writing, or if it's something you know how to do. If it's something you don't know, that's fine, right? You can hire somebody to do translation into professional Japanese, and they'll be better than you are, unless you've learned to speak Japanese since we last talked. So it's not a problem. And if you hire somebody who knows what to do, just like you, but they're just not as good at it, there'll always be that temptation to go in and say, oh, but if I did the training, it would be in half the time, or if I wrote this proposal, or if I did the sales, or I did the whatever it is, if it's something where you're better at it than they are, objectively, not because of ego, but objectively you're better, then there's that temptation to go in and do it. But every time you allow that temptation to win, you get even better and they don't get better at all. So your trainer right now, even with, no, we're not probably a great trainer, but you're probably better. But if you say, I go in and do it, yes, it'll be better now, but then he's not, or she's not going to get better, where you're going to get even better. And then next time it's going to be, I could do it in 40% of the time.
I think it makes perfect sense what you're saying. I totally understand it.
Let's stop the sentence there. No, go on.
Yeah. But I don't think it's the case in this situation, because
Okay.
actually it is the other way around.
Oh, okay.
The other way around, meaning that this trainer, when it comes to training itself, I mean, training new people to learn new skills, I think is not just better than me. I think he's much better than me because he's more patient than me. I'm more of a I need to happen now guy. Instead, he has the patience to explain again and again to the people. What I mean, but by having the need to be in the field, is that we took we have a contractual promise to the client that somewhere in July, whether that's 1st of July, whether that's end of July, we will need to have the sectors, the operational sectors. There are 3 operational sectors from where these people come from. They need to be operation completely with drones. So the reason why I'm saying I need to be in the field is not necessarily because the other trainer is doing a worse job than me, because we would split the team in 2. So he will not have he will not train the whole A team together. So we will split. He will take 4. I will take 4. So that means the time for the training of the people goes halfway. Yeah, that's what I mean. And when the client didn't impose this on us, didn't say, okay, you need to do it on July. We took this agreement. We said we will do it in July. And when we said that, we calculated, okay. So I said, yeah, okay. If I am every day in the field with the people, me and my trainer, it will take us around 1 to maximum 2 months to have them, all 8 of them, operational. And said, okay, we multiply those 2 months by 2 and we have 4 months, right? Next to those 4 months, we added extra 2 months just for safety, right? So, but now, because I'm almost completely absent from the operations in the field, he needs to take to train the people. And because he's very patient with the people, and people like to be trained by him because he's a good trainer, it takes a lot of time, right? So that's why I feel the pressure of the time passing by and not having the advancement with the training as fast as we should, in order to respect our deadline, the deadline that we said we will respect, that is July. So this is the reason.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So I'm glad I got to go on a long rant and was completely wrong. That's also nice.
No, but what you're saying,
It's not wrong. It just wasn't relevant here. But I hear you. Now I get it.
it's very relevant. It's very relevant what you described, but it was relevant at the beginning when it was
Bingo.
very hard for me to let go. So you described perfectly the Julian from the company from 2.5 years ago. No,
See,
actually from 2 years ago. Yeah.
this is time machine coaching. No, so no, but that then runs us into a different problem. Thank you for that. That runs us into the problem that when you made that estimate of how long it would take, you did it, and then reality turned out to be different, right? And that's very normal, right? Now we're talking where we need innovation. Now this is good. We'll ignore the 2.5 year part. That was a fun side thing, but let's look at the now thing. And that means that now, if I understand you correctly, you're in a situation where because of the other stuff you need to do, you can't actually, you don't have time to both do that stuff that you need to do and the other stuff that you need to do. And unless we can clone you and create more time for you, you need some innovation. Good. Now we have a challenge. Now we have something to look at. Very clear cut. Okay. So first thing is this guy is a good trainer. Very cool to hear. He's very patient and he takes a long time. And that's good, but it means it takes more time. You're a little bit worried it'll take too much time. Now, is there a way to speed him up without losing quality, or is that not an option? No.
That's not an option. This is a kind of guy that operates as how should I say, like like a very oiled one gear machine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very it works very well only under those conditions.
Got it. Got it.
The moment I go and put pressure on him, the quality of the training goes low. Our relationship.
Okay, good. So there's that's not easy to do. So one option is a simple option. I'm not saying it's a good one, but a simple option is to just go to your client and say, we're progressing, things are looking good. We suggested that July deadline. We still think we can make that, but just to be on the safe side, we'd like to hear what would it look like if we push that to August or September. That they will be trained by them, but we'd like to give them extra edge. And what we've found out since we made the agreement is that there are things we can teach them that'll make them even better that we hadn't thought of or weren't aware of. So we can stick to our agreement, July, as it is, and we'll give you them, and they'll be great. But if you give us a bit more time, you don't have to pay more, you just give us more time, then we'll give you something that's even better. That I'm not saying it's necessarily the way to do it, but since they don't, and here we're talking professional Japanese, since they can't easily see the difference between a level 9 and a level 10 professional drone pilot, if you tell them they're now level 9, but they could be level 10, they'll say, great, we want more. And if they say, no, it's fine, then you're just where you are now, but then you also now know that the time matters to them. Because there's a pretty good chance they'll say, no, that's cool. We can get extra if we wait a month. Of course we will. Or they might say, it's actually super important that they're done not just by July, but by July 10th. And then it won't necessarily change anything, but it might give you an easy way out. But it also might give you a better understanding of how important is it to the client, just as a simple way of doing it. And if you could do that, then maybe it solves itself, right? Maybe you just buy yourself extra months without changing anything. The trainer doesn't have to change. You don't have to worry. The client didn't care anyway, or they were fine with it. Maybe they just feel they're getting extra service and everybody's happy. So that's one option. And if that doesn't work, then you know that time matters to them. And then you can take a serious look at, okay, so we need to get done. How do we get done on time? Is it by you reprioritizing? Is it by you hiring an extra trainer? Or is it by you pulling in somebody to help with the stuff you're doing? Or is it by looking at the training they're getting and seeing, here's a thing that they actually don't need to learn. We'd love to teach that to them, but they don't need to because they'll learn by doing it within the first, time that they're actually on the job as an option, right? Does that make sense as a?
Yeah, it makes sense. And any of the above might be an option. And I think the most viable one is for me to reprioritize.
that might at least be, it might end up that you have to. And I think the nice thing about the
Yeah.
situation you're in now is that you're right now where you realize there's a problem. Right? We sometimes talk about innovation, that innovation happens at the edges. It happens when you're desperate and you realize I need to, or something will go wrong horribly, or when you're not desperate at all, when you're feeling invulnerable, when you're like, ha ha, I've got $1 million here, have $100 to roll a cigar, no problem. And you're at that nice space where you're realizing you're going towards desperate, but you're not there yet. You're in
Yeah.
a perfect spot to do something because you're desperate enough to realize this is not going to go well, or maybe not at least, but you're not yet where you're like, shit, we've already passed both the deadline and I just yelled at one of my employees who just quit and everything. Like you're not that desperate, but you're in a pretty good sweet spot for doing something differently because you can still you can still afford to fail. If you do something different for the next 2 weeks and it doesn't solve it, it's not the end of the world. Where when you have 2 weeks left and you do something different, then it is the end of the, it's not hopefully the end of the real world, but a little bit, at least the end of good relations with that client or that trainer or whatever it is. So I think right now you are at a perfect time for doing experimentation. And even more so if you involve your trainer and say, what's the train? It doesn't matter. The trainer's name in this example is called Ramon, because that's an excellent name. So you go and say, Ramon, here's the situation. I love what you're doing. This is going really well. We have a little bit of a time issue. Probably it's not critical, but I'd rather be on the safe side. So I'm going to ask you, is there something, if we had to cut 10% of the training, what would you suggest? I'm not saying we have to. This is a prior conversation, but just in case it is, I want to get your opinion on that because I have opinions, but you're the one doing the training and you're doing a great job. And if he says there's nothing that can be cut, everything is completely essential, then you're like, okay, I know that there's strong pushback from him. So I don't have access to that as an easy solution. And maybe he says, you know what? We could cut this and this, and it wouldn't really do that much. And then you have an extra backup solution if needed. I think part of what, as a leader, gives psychological kind of comfort and kind of nice feeling in the stomach is not needing the parachute, but knowing you have it. And if you know you've packed the parachute very well in your airplane and you have the reserve parachute and the extra parachute and the third parachute for necessary problems, then you feel pretty good when things start to go bad because you know that's taken care of. Where if you start looking for parachutes when the plane is going down and the engine's on fire, then it's going to be a very desperate search for them. And when you find them, you're not going to double check, are they packed properly? You're just going to throw it on and jump out the plane. And then when it goes, oh, this one was missing some straps, then it's not good. But you're right now, you can still pack some parachutes without things going wrong.
Yeah, that's correct.
On another thing, just before we round off, on another note on that, this prioritizing thing, who helps you with that? Who do you spar with on that? When you're sitting there, it's 11 a.m., it's 11 at, not in the morning, it's 11 at night, and you're sitting there grumbling and think, I need 60 hours of Julian and I only have 40 of him. What the hell do I do? Who do you spar with? Who do you talk with? Who do you go to?
Well, yeah, it's my manager in the company, and usually, how should I say this? So my workflow and the things that I have to do, my tasks don't only come from one direction. They come from multiple directions. From my direct manager and also from the managers above him. Because on one side we need to develop this project, which has the deadline in July. On another side we have another guy from the top management who is developing the drone business outside and inside Romania. So he's having weekly talks with top managers from the different other companies, whether they are from oil and gas industry, whether they are from another branch of the energy sector, let's say electricity infrastructure and stuff like that. And we also have weekly meetings with him. So I have tasks that I need to do coming from multiple directions. also the tasks that are coming from the quality department, because we are also applying to becoming a certified laboratory for methane detection for the new EU regulations that are expected to come into effect in June this year. So there are a lot of tasks that come from multiple directions, and I have to mingle between them and check them one by one, slowly by slowly. And as you rightfully mentioned, I'm not in a very desperate moment right now, not with the operations manual, not with the laboratory certification, and also not with the trainees in the field. But I feel that slowly by slowly, let's say the workload is catching up with the deadlines, and I hopefully I mean I hope that we will manage to do everything on time and also do them right.
So do I, of course. There's a thing that maybe you already do this. So maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but there's a thing that in many organizations, especially like the mid-management, people tend to suffer from. It is that they take responsibility for success moving downwards, and they take responsibility for resources moving upwards. And while that's an admirable thing, it sounds nice, it's morally nice that you take total responsibility, it also can cause trouble. Because if one of your people goes to you and say, Julian, you've given me 2 tasks and I only have resources to do 1. Which one do you want done? You'll say, okay, thanks for telling me. I want you to focus on A, and then if you have time left over, do B, or B and then do A. Where you wouldn't tell that person, that's your problem, make both of them work. Right? You'll say, okay, I understand where you're going. I'm happy you told me. Let me see what I can do to get you extra resources or to prioritize. Now, that's a classic manager to worker relation when it's functioning well. I'm sure you do that. Tricky thing is you need to do that as well. So when you say, I need to prioritize, well, maybe you need to go to the person above you and say, I have 4 things I need to do, and I have resources for 3 of them. Which one do you want me to cut? Because if you're stuck taking the decision on which one to cut or what to under prioritize without anybody above you knowing that, then there's a good chance that you're going to end up with the shit, both emotionally and, shall we say, operations wise, because you're trying to save them from decisions that actually belong on their table. And one of the, I realized this, or at least it stuck with me many years ago. I was giving a speech to the Danish culture minister on role-playing, role-playing is like a volunteer hobby. And I told her, well, you're giving the National Theatre 500 million kroner a year from the state funds. If you just gave us 10, we could do a lot more. And she laughs and says, you tell me what you need, and I'll see where to get it from. That's my job. You tell me what the need is. That's your job. Don't tell me where to get it. That's my job. And that stuck with me, that it's very easy to think when you're low in a hierarchy, think, yes, I want more resources and I should take them from there, from that department or this one or whatever it is. Where in reality, your job is to tell upwards, I need more, or I have more capacity, or I need more resources. And then they can say, well, you can't have them. Then you say, great, then I need to prioritize. Which one do you want me to focus on? Because if you're prioritizing, maybe you're doing it wrong according to some strategic objective higher up. That's one option. The other is just that you do it and you end up getting stressed about it, and you end up kind of overperforming yourself to make up for a shortfall, where in reality what's going on is that you're overworked and your people are overworked, and if you don't stop that, then you're the worker who doesn't tell his boss that they need resources and just works harder until they suddenly one day get sick or quit or get angry or whatever it is. And then the boss is like, but I never knew. And that leading upwards is tricky, where we teach the people at the ground to say, I need help. But we sometimes are not that good as business cultures at teaching the mid-managers to say, if you want me to do this, you need to prioritize. I can only do 3 of the 4 things you're asking me to. And it sounds to me, I know you as a really hard worker, and it sounds to me that you have administrative tasks, you have leadership tasks, you have incoming tasks from 3 different places, you have training tasks, you have people management. You have all these, and you have coordination, and there's some strategic stuff, and there's some like hands-on, and then you also have to be available because, oh, here's a new opportunity. We need to work with that. Like you are right now functioning, it seems, at a pretty high level of using Julian's resources, where that's okay, but if you keep on doing that, you're going to end up burning a little bit more than you have. And if you're constantly saying, oh, I need to find a way so I can do all these things, instead of telling the people telling you to do them to say, you need to tell me which ones are most important, then it's gonna, sometimes the shit flows down, but it also sometimes needs to be thrown up again. So they can say, oh, okay, we need to do something. Does this resonate, or am I 2.5 years behind this time as well?
No. This is a very good point. Yeah. I'm resonating totally. Yeah.
Then I'm going to use
Ah.
that also because we're slowly running out of time. So I'm going to use that. Julian said he resonated. Then this is where we get to the wrap up. And for that, I want you to, there are two things. One is I want to thank you for coming on the air and sharing this. As I tell people on the podcast, it takes courage to share what you're dealing with, and to not only share it with me, which I appreciate, but also with random listeners who may or may not know you and may think, okay, what's okay, that's strange. Wow, that's what he's dealing with, or oh, I get that. So thank you for that. That I appreciate. The second is I want you to take a minute, or take a moment at least, and think of what are 3 things you take away from our talk here. And not just so I can hear them, which is nice, but also so they out there can hear them. Most of all, so you can hear them, because then there's a better chance they become a little bit of a memory anchor. What are 3 kind of takeaways from what we've talked about here?
Okay, first of all, thank you as well for the opportunity of being here, and also having the chat with you. This is something we've done a little bit in the past as well, and it's always a pleasure. Let's say going down the rabbit hole a bit with you. And as the 3 main takeaways, I think I would have one which is the most important, and we might split it in 3 if you want. And
one is better than 0, right?
yeah, but I think it's a very important one, and is the one that was the most obvious for me throughout the podcast, and that is how you manage to navigate through my story, and to actually find to actually find the point and the actual struggle that I'm dealing with, because now I'm realizing that this might be the problem itself, the thing that I'm trying to split my resources into multiple direction without having the ability to take action and pass it on forward, as you mentioned. So I think this is the main takeaway, and also how you manage to spot that, how you manage to read that with my description, and with my job.
Thank you for that. Very kind of you to say.
I don't know how to split that in 3. Also, one of the, I mean, this is not a takeaway from this particular discussion that we're having. This is a takeaway from probably all the discussions that we ever had, whether they were more serious or funny ones, is how you always manage to find a similarity, a similar story, or to simplify the situation in a simple to understood story, in order for the rest to understand the story. I don't know if that makes sense.
To me, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I like how you're doing that, whether it's a funny situation or a more serious and podcast oriented situation such as this one. And that's something I always enjoyed about yourself, because this is something that I also like, or at least try to do, to simplify the bigger problem in a smaller problem in order to be easily dissected, let's say.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Julian, and very kind of you to say so on the air when people are listening. Thank you for that. I won't put you on the spot for a third. I think both those 2 were very nice. So that's and hopefully not just useful for us, but also for somebody out there. thank you for being on this. And to all of you out there, you have heard Iulian Dinu and me, your host, Klaus Foster. Thank you for listening.